If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of three. Inside my online program, Fitness Mama, I just love helping support women to care for their bodies during pregnancy, prepare their bodies for birth, and support their after-birth recovery, helping them feel confident and strong inside out during this important stage of their lives. In this podcast, join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth, and postnatal recovery, helping you through every step of the journey. It is absolutely possible to feel amazing and confident in our bodies during this motherhood journey, and I want that for you. Come and say hi to me on Instagram at @fitnessmama, and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to our first Spilling the Milk series on this Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. In this Spilling the Milk series, we now have an episode being released twice a week, and one of which is our normal style episode that we've been running for the last few years now, where I have either a guest expert speaker or it's a solo episode where we discuss all things pregnancy, wellness, birth, preparation and recovery. But in this second episode, that's today, we've got the Spilling the Milk series where I chat to a range of amazing mums who have been through it all. So we talk openly about their pregnancy journeys, challenges along the way. We talk about their birth story, and I will be always making sure that I interview a whole range of different types of birth stories here. And importantly, we also discuss the fourth trimester and beyond. So we talk about recovery, we talk about mental health, physical health, and everything else that goes along with this journey that we call motherhood. So today's chat is with the beautiful Maddy. Maddy describes her 2 miscarriages, her mental health challenges, followed by what she describes as a beautiful maternal assisted Caesarean birth. And Maddy is really open and honest with us. She talks us through the ups and downs she experienced, including breastfeeding challenges and her decision to introduce mixed feeding. So if you don't know Maddy, go check her out on Instagram. She's really active on Instagram at Maddy Zanata. And she is also a passionate advocate of body positivity. And this amazing chat has it all, and I just know you're going to love it. Before we do dive into this episode, I just want to invite you to join us inside Fitness Mama. So if reclaiming your pelvic floor, core and strength safely is important to you to help you care for your body confidently during and after pregnancy, then Fitness Mama could be just what you need. Perhaps you found you're not exercising as much as you'd like to during pregnancy and after birth. Perhaps you're busy, or you've lost the motivation, or you're not sure how to best be looking after your body. Perhaps you got the pelvic girdle pain and abdominal muscle separation, and you're not sure about the best exercises for you. Or you'd like to get back into running after birth and you want the best kickstarter possible. Then Fitness Mama could be just what you need. Join us for these convenient, short, easy workouts that you can do from the comfort of your home whilst your bubba sleeps, your toddler runs around, or at the end of a long day at work. Head to fitnessmama.com and the link is in the show notes. Right, let's get into this episode. So Maddy, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I'm really honoured to be able to chat. Do you mind, let's just get started. Do you mind introducing yourself for those who haven't heard of you or don't know who you are?
Sure. So my name is Maddy Zanata. I'm a plus-size content creator, plus-size model, and a professional singer. So I do a little bit of everything. And a new mum, of course.
That's right. And the reason I touched base with you, Maddy, was just because I love your whole vibe, everything you give off about diversity and inclusion, and you've got an amazing story to tell, which I won't give it away. I'm going to let you tell the story. But thank you for sharing this. I do really appreciate you taking time out today.
No problem. No, I'd love to, share my story and for everyone to hear it. It's pretty cool.
So let's start at the start. Like, I know you've got a gorgeous little girl called Santa.
Yeah.
How was that process getting pregnant? How did it evolve? Was it planned? Talk us through that.
So it was planned. We wanted to have kids. My partner, he's 10 years older than I am. And after the wedding, we decided to start trying. We got told he had low testosterone, so we thought it would be quite a struggle to get pregnant. Also, you hear stories about your weight, sometimes it being hard to get pregnant due to your weight and all that sort of stuff. So we thought we'll just try on our honeymoon, may as well. Sounds like a good time to try. So we did, and we got pregnant first go. And it was the shock of a lifetime. Absolute shock of a lifetime. Was so incredibly excited. And then at our 9-week scan, we unfortunately had a miscarriage. And that completely, utterly blindsided us. Like, we just had no idea that that could happen. Obviously you do, but you just don't think that it would happen to you. It just was never on the cards for us. So I think that's probably one of the lowest moments of my life, just like that scan and just it not being in our brain. Like, we'd already planned this whole life of having a baby, and it was, one of those things. And so when I started telling people about it, I had so many people say, well, I've had a miscarriage. My mom had had 2 miscarriages. My sister-in-law has had 2 miscarriages. My friends have had miscarriages. Half of them I didn't know about. So no one talks about it. It's still quite a stigma about it. And so I thought, I'm going to put this online and just put it out there just so people are aware and they're not blindsided like I was, because I don't want anyone to feel that way, like the way that we felt when we first found out. And the amount of response I got from other people who have had miscarriages is just incredible. And the amount of responses I still get to this day saying, thank you so much for sharing about them, it kind of prepared us for the worst. I'm not saying that you should always prepare for the worst, but just so you're prepared in case anything does happen. But yeah, it's just, we've had 2 miscarriages all up before Senna. And then the third time we got pregnant, my obstetrician put us on a few different medications just to ensure, hopefully, that it wouldn't happen again. And luckily it didn't.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thanks
Sorry,
for sharing.
That was a lot.
I didn't actually. I had gone, looked into you and not in a creepy way.
No, yeah.
I knew you had a little baby, but I didn't realize those stories. So thank you so much for sharing. At what stage did you share with your audience that you had? Like, how long did it take for you to share that information that you'd had a miscarriage?
It was that night.
Okay. So it was really raw.
It was a real raw feeling. It was very cathartic to post about it. And I think that if I had have waited, I wouldn't have posted about it, honestly. But I think it was really hard to move on and pretend like nothing had happened. Yeah. I just felt like I couldn't continue to be online and just pretend that everything is fine when it had changed my whole life and it had changed me as a person. It really had. So I felt like I had to say something. Yeah.
And can you explain how it changed you as a person?
I don't know. I think it humbled me and it showed me, I think grief changes you as a person in general, even though obviously the baby was so small. It was only 9 weeks, but it was more the fact of like it was the whole journey of like thinking about your future and planning your future, and all that had changed me. And it made me realize I did actually really want to be a mum, even though I knew I wanted to be a mum. But then when you get that in your hands and then it gets taken away from you, it's just awful feeling.
Yeah. And how did that affect your subsequent pregnancy, your third pregnancy?
The first trimester was horrid because we'd had 2 first trimester miscarriages. So the entire first trimester, I was a mess. I kind of just, it sounds really bad, but I just didn't want to think about it. But I was also really sick. Like I wasn't hospitalized or anything. I was just severely hungover sick. That's how it felt. You know that, like you want to vomit, but you don't actually vomit. So you don't get that relief of vomiting. So I couldn't keep down food. I just lived off Up and Go for like 3 months and steamed vegetables. But it really took a toll on me mentally, that first trimester. I think it was about 9 weeks, 10 weeks in. And I said to Jamie, oh no, it was a little bit later. It was after because we had the NIPT test. So maybe it was about 12 weeks. I had just completely, utterly convinced myself that she disappeared from my stomach. And it's so irrational. That just doesn't happen. A baby just doesn't boom out of thin air. But I was like, I don't think I'm pregnant anymore. Something's happened. And he's like, well, that's not a thing. It doesn't happen. Like, because with our first miscarriages, we didn't have any signs that anything had gone wrong. We only found out at scans. So my obstetrician was great. He said, if you're feeling anxious, come in and we'll do a scan, because he has a little machine at his office. So I would, give him a call and be like, I'm feeling really anxious and I need to come in for a scan. And he's like, okay, that's fine. Like, come in, we'll fit you in. So he was fantastic. But yeah, it just took a toll on me mentally. Like, I felt like I was going crazy. And then as soon as we started to feel her kicking, which I think was felt the first kick, probably about 20 weeks was the first proper kick. And then I felt fine after that. So it was up until about 20, 22 weeks that I didn't think it was going to happen, which is silly.
Well, not at all. When you say it affected you mentally, how did that affect you day to day, like in your everyday life?
I just wanted to, I couldn't allow myself to get excited about it. And it really robbed the joy of the first half of my pregnancy, because I just, and when I hit send, we did a little video, an announcement video, and I was like, I don't know if I want to post this. What if something happens? And Jamie's like, well, you'll just talk about it online, and then you have, so many people who've gone through the same thing. They'll help you, and you'll help others with their journey too. So he's like, just post it. It'll be fine. So we posted it. Like, I still waited till about 14 weeks to post, but I was just so nervous. I felt like I was jinxing it.
Yeah, gosh. And did it feel better once you'd posted it?
It did, having it out in the open. And like, a lot of my close friends knew I'd been on like a trip down to Tasmania with my friends, and everyone was drinking. Like, we did a little cocktail thing, and I had a little mocktail, and we were trying to hide it, and I had ginger beer in a champagne glass, just still trying to act normal and not show. But yeah, it was very nerve-wracking talking about it. But yeah, I just kind of didn't even want to think about it, because when I thought about it, I freaked out about it. So I just kind of put it to the side of my mind, which is sad, because, it's the first trimester of Senna. And
yeah, so from 20 weeks onwards, how were you feeling? Like, how in your body? Did you start to prepare for birth, or did you get aches and pains? Like, talk us through it.
Yeah, so I had a lot of pelvic pain. I think it's called SPD. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a few different names. I like to call it pelvic girdle pain, because it's like, yes, but
yeah. So I stopped doing the gym because it was just really affecting me. And then I noticed as well with my breathing, the larger my belly got, the harder it was in my diaphragm to breathe. So I planned on finishing work in February. Senna was born in March, and I actually had to give it up in January because it was too much. Like, I just felt like I couldn't, like, I had to change the way I breathed and change the way I worked. And then
explain to everyone why that matters. Why did it matter that you couldn't breathe? Because
okay, yeah, because I'm a singer.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a professional singer. I do weddings, corporate functions, gigs, that sort of thing.
So you need to be able
really
to breathe.
Affected me. You have to breathe, unfortunately. And also standing at weddings for 12 hours. And I sang a little bit at my good friend's wedding the week before Senna was born.
Wow.
I stood in heels for 20 minutes, and it was hell. I don't know why I did that to myself. I should have just worn flats. But I was like, it's my friend's wedding. I have to look nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a lot of back pain, and it really affected the way I walked in the end.
And the physio in me has to ask, did you get treatment? Did you do any, special exercises and stretches to help? Did you get help
Yes.
at all?
Definitely, yes. Yeah,
cool.
I went to the lovely ladies at Chevron Island Physio and they helped me so much. I had weekly sessions and also every fortnight I had a massage, by a massage therapist. And the way she used her fingers and got into every little part of my spine was just incredible.
Yeah,
but
great.
both of them really helped. And I also got help with my pelvic floor as well.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, and how did you start to prepare for birth? What was going through your thoughts then?
So very early on, I had a conversation with my obstetrician about what type of birth we were going to have, whether it be vaginal or cesarean, medicated, unmedicated. He said, have you decided? Have you even had to think about it? And I said, well, what would you suggest? Because I felt just because of our 2 miscarriages, I was still very paranoid. I was still very paranoid about, giving birth and then something going wrong in the birth. So I was quite scared of having a vaginal birth, but I would have had it if he said that was the best thing for me. So I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is like an overproduction or default in the collagen in my body. So I'm hypermobile, hyperflexible. And he said that would probably not be a great idea to have a vaginal birth. So he said, I would highly suggest you having a cesarean. And mentally as well, that was the better choice for me. I knew when the date was. I could prepare for it. It wasn't, is she coming now? Is she coming later? What if something happens and I have to have the cesarean anyway? Or, what if I dislocate a hip during birth I dislocated my knee just bending down to pick something off the floor. So it definitely could have happened. So it was just the easiest mentally and physically for me to decide to have a cesarean. But I didn't like the idea of having a curtain up. It just felt so impersonal. So my obstetrician suggested a maternal assisted cesarean. And I just thought that was exactly what I was looking for. I thought it was fantastic. And yeah, I decided to have a maternal assisted cesarean.
Amazing. And had you heard much about maternal assisted cesareans before that conversation?
I'd never heard of it before he told me about it, but then I went to an event quite early on. I hadn't even announced it yet, but most of the people at that event actually knew I was pregnant because I was telling a few people I was about 13 weeks. And one of my friends, Shay, I met her at the event. Now she's become a friend. She had a maternal assisted cesarean, so we got chatting. Pretty much we just chatted to each other the whole event about her experience, and she sold it for me. And I thought, yes, I'm definitely going to do this. It's such a cool idea. So that's what I decided to do.
Amazing. And for those listening, I will link in the show notes. I've chatted to the lovely Dr. Natalie Elphinstone all about maternal assisted cesarean births. And there's also another birth story, which I'll have to link, one of the earliest birth stories. So, yeah, I love the fact that we're talking about this because there's growing awareness around it. And I think more and more doctors and hospitals are offering this. So
yeah.
Talk us through how did you prepare for maternal assisted cesarean birth?
This episode is brought to you by Baby Bee, Australian-owned and designed prams combining quality, safety and style. Not only does Baby Bee let you try their prams at home with free returns for 9 months, yes, that's 9 months, they also offer an industry-leading 3-year warranty for total peace of mind. With thousands of 5-star reviews, around-the-clock customer care, and up to $300 of free accessories with every pram, what are you waiting for? Go visit www.babybeeonline.com and check them out for yourself. And yes, for listeners of the podcast, there is a 20% discount code. Enter FITBEE, FITBEE 20 at checkout, and T's and C's apply.
I don't think I did prepare, honestly. The only thing they told me was that I would have to have my arms up for a little bit. So they put the gloves on you, they disinfect everything, and then you have to hold your arms up and not touch anything. Like, you cannot touch a thing. Spoiler alert, I did, and they had to start again. I got into trouble. So I had to keep my hands up. So they said, just make sure you can keep your hands up for that long. And in hindsight, it wasn't that long. But that's the only thing I prepared for. And I feel like I definitely should have prepared more for that. But I didn't want to know too many details. Like, my obstetrician said, how much detail do you want to know? Do you want to know a lot of detail? Do you want to know a little bit of detail? Would you prefer to not know anything? And I said, just like in the middle somewhere would be good. So he kind of printed off some information on how the day would work. And I read through that. But apart from that, I didn't really do anything.
What about normal childbirth education classes, that sort of thing?
Oh, we had my midwife, Michelle, from Parents to Be. She came over and did I think it was about 4 hours, because we're having Caesarean. We didn't need to do, all the pushing and all your normal or vaginal way to do it. We didn't need that. So she came over and taught us how to put on a nappy and talked through our whole living situation, which I found really helpful. So she came and said that, your dressing table or your change table maybe should go over here, just because it's closer to the closet and it's easy to get to. And then she taught us, how to put the blankets, where to put the blankets, how to tuck them in. So, very in-depth first-time parents things that you just don't know. So that helped prepare us.
And it's great. If she came into your house, it was very personalised just for you, it sounds
Definitely.
like.
Exactly, yeah, and that's how she works. She just personalises every single case. And she's been with us since Senna's born as well, which is fantastic.
Amazing. Now, I would love to hear, what happened from when you went into hospital, because I feel a lot of birth stories sort of gloss over the caesarean side of things. We don't hear sort of step by step, whereas a lot of birth stories with vaginal births, you hear every step of the way. So talk us through the morning of.
So I actually have to think about this, because the whole thing's a bit of a blur, to be honest. It's actually nice to reminisce. So we went in, I think we had to leave the house at 5:30 in the morning. It was quite early. So, we had a date night the night before. We went out and we had, lovely Italian meal together, just the two of us. And we went in at 5:30 and they put us through to pre-op. So we had to get into our scrubs. Jamie had to wear scrubs over his clothes. And then, they put the lovely, huge underwear on you and your little cap and everything. And then they wheeled us into there's another little room next to the operating theatre, and then the doctors come in and then they introduce themselves, like the anaesthetist and everything, introduce themselves, ask you how you're feeling and how you're excited. And it was just a really relaxed atmosphere. It wasn't like, oh, I'm having an operation. It just felt very friendly and relaxing. And then it kind of hit me that I was going to have a baby, and that started to make me freak out. And I know that sounds really bad, but I was like, oh my God, it's happening today. Like, oh my gosh. And it really hit me all of a sudden. So we got rolled into the next room and they put the spinal block in. I don't know if it's called a spinal block or no, it is a spinal block, not an epidural. So I think the epidural, they can keep it going. The spinal block's a bit different. They know exactly how much time that you have. So they bent me over, put the spinal block in, laid me down on the table. They quickly did my gloves and everything and told me not to touch anything, and I accidentally touched something. So they had to redo it again, and they're doing it really fast because the spinal block only lasts for a certain amount of time. So they're trying to get, everything done. And then honestly, within 3 minutes, Senna was born. We heard her crying. It was so fast, incredibly fast. So he guided my hand down, and because I could still feel my hands, he guided my hand down and he goes, "Can you feel that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "That's your uterus." I was like, ah! I was like, oh my God, I'm touching inside me. That's insane. I couldn't see anything. Not that there was a screen up, but I just couldn't see because of the way you're lying. And then I just hear him go, "Oh my gosh, so much hair." And she was born with so much hair. And then he just grabbed both my hands and just guided my hands with her in them out and up. And then I could see her and hear her. And then he put her straight on my chest. And I just thought, oh my gosh, there's a baby on me. And I was like, I don't want to hurt her. Is she breathing? Like, is she okay? And they're like, she's beautiful. She's crying. You know, she was like a 10 on the APGAR test. Like, she was really loud. And I just thought, oh my God, she's here. This is her. And it was the most incredible experience of my life. I mean, I was terrified the whole time, but it was also, looking back, incredible. Like, I can't believe I did that.
It sounds like such a lovely experience. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it was. I was in my head a lot about it being I was really scared to hurt her, just because I was like she's a newborn. I'd never really held other people's babies before. Like, I wasn't around when a lot of my friends had their babies. Like, they're a little bit older than I am, so all their kids are a little bit older. And I just I just didn't really know what to do. And I was a bit scared to make sure that she was okay. I didn't want to do the wrong thing. And then we got wheeled into recovery, and our midwife, Siobhan, was so beautiful. She made me feel so at ease. She was like, you have this. Like, this is your baby. And then she was just so soft and gentle, and like that calming presence when I was just in my brain absolutely freaking out. And she was just so calm and lovely and guided me and helped me calmly how to breastfeed. And it was just, yeah, exactly what I needed in that moment. So I'm so thankful to her.
It sounds like all those beautiful hormones are flowing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the fact that, we had 2 miscarriages beforehand, the whole anxiety in the first trimester, or the whole pregnancy basically, I think I just was really in my head about it all during the surgery. And that all just came out in that moment of me just being terrified. And I think I had to have that moment of being terrified to just move on from it. Not move on, you never fully move on, but to just, start the next chapter with Senna. And I think that was the moment with Siobhan in recovery really transitioned into like, okay, I'm a parent now.
Isn't that amazing? One encounter with the perfect person just really helped you in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all of the doctors and the surgeon and everyone was so beautiful in the room. They were so lovely. It was all me in my head that was just freaking out about doing the wrong thing. I was just, don't know why my head decided to have that moment then, but it did.
And
it was probably just the anxiety of it all.
Yeah. And what would you tell yourself now when you're in that, like if you were back in that moment, what would you tell yourself?
Like, just take a deep breath. You got this. You won't hurt her. She's fine. You'll be the best parent that you know how to be. And she only knows you as a parent. You know what's best for your own kids. And that it comes, I don't know if the word's natural, but it just, your instinct kicks in as parents. And like that whole survival mode kicks in and you'll be fine.
Oh, love that. And did that continue for the rest of the hospital stay and over the next few weeks? Like, did you have, how are the following few days and weeks?
So we stayed in like the room where Jamie, my husband, could stay with us. And so we had like a double bed. I don't think I left the room for like 4 days. I just stayed in there. It was like a little hotel stay. It was nice. Like, we had the midwives coming in. I had some issues with my milk supply. I still have issues with my milk supply. So she was just cluster feeding all the time. And, recovering from Caesarean, like those first couple of days, I got up that afternoon to go and have a shower that afternoon, which was really painful, but also I think helpful, like to make you feel better, bring you back into, the here and now. the first couple of days are painful. I'm not going to lie. So my husband, he did all the changes and then would bring her to me to feed. And then he would, swaddle her and change her and put her back to bed again and then bring her back to me again. So the two of us were so sleep deprived. But I think it was like the third night he fell asleep standing up. I kept falling asleep and I was like, you have to stay awake to make me stay awake. You have to be on guard so that I don't fall asleep with her on my boob, because I was like worried about co-sleeping and falling asleep with her feeding. And then it just got to the point where the midwife was like, do you want me to take her? And I was like, no, I have this, it's fine. And it was like 7 o'clock in the morning and I was like, can you take her for an hour so I can get an hour's sleep, please? And I felt so guilty. But like that hour was all we needed to just regain some sense back.
Yeah. And would you say having your husband there in hospital so that you didn't have to get up and move as much and call the nurses or midwives as much, was that really helpful?
Oh, definitely. I don't know how people do it when they are like single parenting. I guess they would rely very heavily on the midwives, especially if they've had a caesarean, because I couldn't get up as many times as she needed me to get up and down. I couldn't do that movement. I couldn't even sit, I couldn't even do a sit up to sit up in bed. I had to use the little, the machine the bed machine to, up and down. So I don't know how you do it without, help. Definitely. And he was so supportive, like anything I needed, he was there. It was great.
Amazing. So Senna's now 8, 9, how about 10 weeks?
She's 12 weeks.
12 weeks, okay.
Yeah.
So
13 weeks tomorrow.
Amazing. So that first newborn, 4th trimester, has gone in the blink of an eye.
It really has. It really has. They do say that the days go quickly. What's it saying? The days go quickly, but the years are long. Yeah.
The days are long. The years are short.
But the years go, that's the one. It's so true.
I feel that, absolutely. So when you got home, without the midwives there, without the hospital supports, how did things change? How was the recovery?
So because of my milk supply, the very last day that we had, it was quite confusing. I had all these people come in and tell me something different. Like, you have to pump every 2 hours, don't breastfeed, just pump and give her the bottle. And then the other ones, don't give her the bottle. Don't give her a dummy or a bottle, blah, 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 blah. And then the other one's like, no, give her 1 bottle a day, pump, 60 ml a day and pop it in. And I was really struggling to get the supply that I needed. And she'd lost a lot of weight. She'd lost more than 10% of her birth weight. So they were quite worried about her losing. So I just felt really like, I don't know what to do. Why are you letting me go home if she's not gaining weight? And you're all telling me something different. And I was really kind of freaking out about it. Then we had to go back in every week and check her weight. And then we had Michelle, my midwife, our private midwife, I guess you call. She came over and she was like, okay, let's just do it this way. This is what you're going to do. And she really outlined it and made it easy for us, So she said, let's get her on the bottle now, because I was going back to work in, 3 months. I start work again tomorrow, actually. She's like, we need to make sure she takes the bottle so that you can go back to work, and we'll do 1 bottle of a night. And so she just really catered it to our situation, whereas I feel like in the hospital, all the differing opinions weren't taking in, our personal situation. They were just opinions. They weren't catered to us. And Michelle just made it make sense for us. And so we started, I actually had to start mixed feeding because I just was really struggling to pump enough for a bottle in the evening. So I was only really making enough milk to feed her each feed. So I was only pumping, 5 to 10 mil after a feed from each boob. And, see on Instagram, it was really messing with my head. Seeing on Instagram and all these women pumping 240 mil in one pump, or like even if I didn't feed from that boob, I would never get that. Like if I didn't feed from the boob, the max I would get would be, 50 to 90 mil. So it just really screwed with my head, and I felt like I was failing, and it just my friend talked to me and she was like, just do what you need to do. Don't compare yourself to other women online. And I'm not, it's funny because I'm so not that person by comparing myself to other women, but it's just a whole new situation. Yeah, I'm not the type of person to compare myself to women online, but this was whole new territory for me. And I just really had to rein in my insecurities and just say, you just need to do what's best for you. If you are struggling to do it, you need to feed your child. She had to gain weight. That was the bottom line. So, we switched to mixed feeding, and she's just absolutely thriving. She's a much happier baby. And that was, the best decision for us.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting? Because often, whether or not it's social media or books that you read or the mothers at the mothers group, like we don't consciously compare, but I think unconsciously you can't help it because you don't know what you don't know. And I think as a new mum, you're just grappling for any information that's going to help, good and bad. Often it comes together. So
definitely. Well, that's something interesting. I bought some baby books. My sister-in-law gave me some baby books as well. And Michelle saw them, my midwife saw them on the bookshelf, and she's like, oh, are you reading these? And I was like, oh, they're on the to read list. And she's like, are you going to be very rigid with your schedule? Is that the type of person that you are? And I was like, no, we're not religiously scheduled people. We're not disciplined people. Like we try to be, but it's very, hard. And then I work nights as well. So a lot of it would be left to my husband. And I was like, no, schedule wise, I don't think we'd be super rigid. Like obviously we schedule her to some point, but also she will fit into our schedule as well, if that makes sense. So she's like, okay, don't read these. You don't need them. And I was like, okay, fair. She's like, they're just going to confuse you. And I was like, okay, all right, I'll take your advice.
Yeah. I love that. My mother-in-law said the same thing, but at the time I thought she was crazy because I was like, if I don't use these books, what will I use? I don't know anything. Help.
Yeah. Oh, well, we were lucky because Michelle gave us a schedule, and she was kind of our baby book, like we just went with the one opinion, focused on the one thing, and it's working for us. So.
Yeah, so good. And I'd love to know, did you share your struggles on social media, and did you get any backlash when you did announce that you were mixed feeding and all that?
I haven't said anything, and this is the first time I will speak about it online, so that makes me pretty nervous, actually.
I think
I already had a lot of people reach out just about the cesarean and saying, why would you put yourself through that? Why would you choose to have a cesarean? Like very judgmental. And I just thought it's just everyone's personal choice. Like you don't even know the reasons why I decided to have a cesarean. So why would you judge based on something that you don't know? But that's just the internet, isn't it?
Yeah. But I'm sure for however many say that sort of thing, there'll be a dozen more, times more really grateful for, putting it out there, because the more we can normalise these challenges, and we all have challenges, they're all different, but the more we can talk about it, I think the better.
I would love to talk about my feeding experience. I think I'm still holding on to a little bit of shame for not being able to feed her adequately, which is silly, but I am totally still holding on to that, I guess shame is the word of like not being enough for her. Oh, I'm going to start crying. Stupid.
Have you spoken to Jamie about that?
I have, yes. And he's just like, we were talking before introducing formula, and he goes like, what are you even worried about? He's like, so many people with formula babies. He's like, I was a formula baby Just do it. It's fine. And I was like, yeah, but, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, just do it. That's silly. Don't you, like, I was putting so much pressure on myself. I felt like a cow I was having to pump like majority of the day just to get a 60 ml bottle for the afternoon bottle feed. And I just thought, like, it's just not worth it. It's not worth my mental health. Like, I will pump what I can pump, but I'm not gonna, like, I was having to pump sometimes for like an hour just to get 20 ml. And I just thought, no, it's not worth it. I'm just gonna pump what I can and then just top up with formula. And it did help a lot. It helped a lot. But it was like my mum friends that helped the most. Everyone, like, I was lucky enough to have a lot of mum friends, and everyone's had something different. Everyone's had a different story, and they were all able to give me like really good opinions, I guess, or really good advice. And they just go with the formula. You'll be fine. She'll be fine. She's thriving.
We're our own worst enemies, aren't we? In terms of, and I know exactly what you're feeling in terms of, you said you felt guilty, and like it's a big, almost this emotional attachment that we need to go off.
Yeah, exactly. And she just, like, because I have low milk supply, like, we don't breastfeed for long because there's just not much there. And I tried everything. I was on fenugreek. I was on those milk lactation cookies. I was, pumping every 2 hours and just trying to get that supply up, and it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't happening. So someone called it a nutritional snack. So she has a little nutritional snack.
I love that.
It's so cool. So she has a little nutritional snack, and then, she'll start screaming because she's not getting enough, and then we'll switch to and do the rest as a bottle.
Happy baby, happy mum.
Exactly.
They're the two important things, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was really the fact of, like, she was visibly in distress because she wasn't getting enough milk. And that's what convinced me, like, you're not doing what's best for your baby here. You're doing what you think you should be doing. You need to, top up with some form of bottle, whether it be your pre-pumped milk or formula. You have to do it for the health of your baby. And that's what switched me over and going, yeah, I really need to do what's best for her and not think about what it should be. And, in your head, what you should be doing as a mum. Should, in quotations, I should say.
And how many weeks of, I guess, the crying and the struggles with feeding and before you made that decision?
So we switched to the bottle, and then I would, was pumping all the time trying to get the bottle. So we'd feed during the day from the boob, and then one bottle of an afternoon, just like to top up before her nighttime sleep. And I would, I think it was about 3 weeks. No, it was about 4 weeks after we got home from the hospital. So about a month and a half after she was born, that I introduced formula for the nighttime bottle just to mix feed. So I would, whatever I pumped that day, I would put into the bottle. And if it wasn't enough, I would just top it up with formula.
Yeah.
And now we do the same thing, but we just do more bottle feeding as well as breastfeeding. So we introduce more bottles throughout the day as well, just to free it up. And, if I need to go to an event or a photo shoot, then, Jamie can feed her, and she takes to a bottle really well.
So talk to me now about your physical recovery. You had your caesarean birth. The first few days you said you were in a lot of pain. You're going back to work tomorrow. I'm assuming it's quite a physical, active job.
So the gigs that I'm taking on are not super physical. It's kind of just, I can sit on the stool if I want to, and it's very relaxed. It's just a dinner cruise. That's like I call it my bread and butter gig. So that's like my weekly gig. So I'm going back there 2 nights. It's only 2 nights a week, so it'll be fine.
Talk me through, this is a physio and me again. How has your physical recovery been? Like, are you feeling weaker than before you're pregnant? Do you have any goals in mind in terms of, helping your body in its strength?
Yeah, so like I said, the first couple of days were really painful. And then apart from that, I had a bit of like burning pain, which is like your surgical pain, they say. And I just took the painkillers they gave me. And there was a few times I had to ask for something a little bit stronger. Like if I had a lot of visitors that day and I was up and about, and then that night it was quite painful. I haven't been to the physio yet. I do need to book that in. I was meant to go for my 6-week checkup. Honestly, I think I was too busy just parenting to even worry about my own recovery or even to think about the fact that I just had major abdominal surgery. And I would get frustrated with myself. And my husband's like, you've just had major abdominal surgery. Like, why are you frustrated? Like, you need to give yourself a break. You're doing amazingly well. And it's only just been recently that I felt that I'm like, okay, getting up. I've noticed I have lost strength. You're right. Like getting up off the couch, we have quite a deep couch. So like having to do a sit up to get up, I'm like, I can't do this, especially with center in my arms. Like I can't. Yeah. I need a hand here. And I went back to the gym for the first time this week.
Oh. So
I was doing pregnancy Pilates in the last bit of my pregnancy, but I stopped going to the gym from the moment I found out I was pregnant because I just freaked out in the first trimester. I just didn't want to do anything that I did the previous 2 pregnancies, just in case it was me who was doing something. So I've lost so much muscle. It's not funny. Like we did a strength class and I was using 7-kilo dumbbells. And before then I was using 15-kilo dumbbells. So I've lost like half my strength. And so my goal is to get back up there, is to get my fitness back just so I can, run around after her and pick her up as she gets heavier and it not be a hassle.
Yeah. My jaw drops. So when you say 7 kilograms, that's a lot. That's a lot. Oh my God.
I was like a severe gym junkie.
Were you?
Like, I just love the, the endorphins it gives you, like the feeling after a spin class or the feeling after, hitting a personal best in your weight sessions. I loved it. So I'm really excited to get back into it again.
Yeah, great. And you know what? It's all about finding something that you love that fits in with your lifestyle that you can do easily. And as you just said, it's not about, for you, it's about being able to get up off the couch with your daughter and being able to run around after her and pick her up and carry everything you need to be able to carry and like move easily and unrestricted. And I love that, because when I talk about physical recovery, it isn't about losing the baby weight. It isn't about getting back into the bikini. It's about feeling strong and good as a mum inside out. So
yeah, exactly. It's about feeling healthy. It's that feeling of I can easily get up and do a task without it being an issue, without it feel like, you get up off the couch or you pick a dummy up off the floor and like that's not a big deal for you to pick up a dummy off the floor, But about making everyday tasks easier. Something that, I actually lost weight during my pregnancy. I think I'd only put on about 1 kilo throughout the whole pregnancy. So I don't know, like that I didn't weigh myself at all. I just had they made me weigh myself the morning of the Caesarean. And so I found out then. I think that's so they knew how much anesthetic to give me, I guess. But yeah, it was really interesting because that had never occurred to me throughout my pregnancy. Like putting on weight was the least of my worries. Like I was so sick the first half and then mentally unwell the first half. I just wanted to have a successful pregnancy. I could not care less about putting on weight.
Yeah. So to wrapping it up, because I'm aware of your time, for any pregnant mums or new mums listening today, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to impart on them, or any piece of advice to finish off with?
If you're looking at a cesarean, I would highly recommend a maternal assisted. Just to have that skin to skin straight away was incredible. And she stayed on me. They took her away just to measure her, but then she was straight back in my arms and she was on me until like 3 p.m. that afternoon. We had the golden hours together, then Jamie had the golden hours as well. So I guess it's daunting thinking about pulling her out or pulling them out of your own stomach, but it's detached because you can't feel it. It's not as crazy as you think it would be. So I would highly, highly recommend that if you're going the cesarean route. And mentally, I think that if you are struggling, to get pregnant, or if you've had miscarriages, I guess I would recommend seeing a counselor and maybe talking through those feelings and getting a little bit of help. I did with our first, and I probably should have after our second as well, because those feelings do come back at the most randomest times, and probably the times that you don't really want them to come back. So I would say don't hesitate to reach out and talk to someone about it, because you've got to deal with those feelings, otherwise they come out.
Yeah.
Also, when, I find I'm a little bit paranoid about Senna now, and I need to rein that in sometimes.
Yeah.
And the other thing I get asked a lot on Instagram, I got asked again this morning, was I'm terrified of putting weight on during my pregnancy. What did you do to stop that? And my answer is always, that should be the least of your worries during your pregnancy. Like, you need to be healthy for your baby. If you're fueling your body correctly and you feel good in your body, that's all that matters. You need to look after the health of your baby. Don't restrict, don't go hard with your exercise just because you're worried about putting on weight. It's like, it's crazy to me that people are worried about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, great words there. So thank you so much, Maddy. To finish off, how can women find you if they want to connect?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Maddy Zanata. We have a really great community over there talking about plus size neutrality, not just body positivity, but neutrality as well, which I think is really important. And some really great fashion. And yeah, you can see my dog Jet. He's cute, very cute. And lots of baby Senna as well.
Does your husband get a mention?
Sometimes, if he feels like it.
Occasionally. Thank you so much, Maddy. Really appreciate you spending the time today. Amazing conversation, amazing story, and I think, great story to share. So I thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We'll catch you soon.
See ya.
That's it, ladies. Before I sign off, remember my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links, including the previous conversations I've had with Dr. Natalie Elphinstone and a previous birth story on this topic of maternal-assisted caesarean birth as well. I'll also be leaving all the details with how to connect with Maddy at fitnessmama.com/podcast. And don't forget to send Maddy and myself a DM on Instagram. We would love to hear from you. Have a fabulous day, everyone, and I look forward to you joining me next week for another episode of the Fitness Mama podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Fitness Mama podcast, brought to you by the Fitness Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at Fitness Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer, materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. I'll see you soon.